And this was before the epidemic of crackheads cutting catalytic converters off cars. Welcome back to a day in the life of a Land Rover hoarder.
And I definitely fit that bill.
But I'm Joe, this is the Lost Cause Ranch, and this little series is just a peek behind the curtains on how we actually afford to have the stuff that we have and build things like the LR4 truck. Essentially the day-to-day that you don't typically see in our main videos. And it is Monday morning, and today we are starting off something tangentially related to Land Rover.
And that is a lower unit for a boat.
How exactly is this related to a Land Rover? I said tangentially. It's really not. The only relation is we used our 405 Range Rover to go and pick this guy up.
And that Range Rover has become the workhorse around here ever since we blew up the LR4.
Which, hey, that at least gave us a good reason to chop it apart and make it into the best LR4, or at least what I think is going to be a really cool LR4.
Just a really short one. But no, the first project for today is going to be getting this scagg repaired on this lower unit. Known the guys at a local boat shop for a long time, and we just fix some of these every once in a while. And it's usually a pretty fun job. I'm apparently not the only one who likes to do arts and crafts, but we just need to extend that back down to the factory length. So we'll clean this edge up, make another aluminum piece, get that TIG welded on. We're right off the Mississippi around here, and with spring coming, they are awful busy down there getting everyone prepped up and out of winter mode. So we just need to make a piece similar to that. And that should do the trick for it. I could have just cut it straight across, but I like having a little more surface area along with this little jog here to grip in our new little addition. With that little point, it's just gonna be a little less likely to bust right back off. Then we have it V'd out here on both sides, and we'll V out this one. That way we get nice full penetration all the way across. And the weld itself will actually be stronger than the cast aluminum. And no matter what you do, welded or factory piece, if you run it into a rock, it's gonna break. Like I mentioned a moment ago, we are on the Mississippi River, and I'm not a big boater or anything like that. I mean, I'm not a boater at all, actually. But from what I understand is you're kind of a little more likely to run into some debris and whatnot on a river versus a lake. We're just tracing our template on, and that's especially true in the spring around here. But we'll get a lot of snow melt from Minnesota, and that'll fill all the tributaries, which fill the Mississippi, which then raise the water, pick up a ton of junk like trees and whatnot, and you have a bunch of stuff hidden, floating down the river. And then you knock stuff off like this. I think I've been on a boat a handful of times, but we get to fix a lot of these throughout the years. There's a lot of stuff around here that I get to fix and not enjoy. But then again, after fixing them, I really don't want to enjoy them. The other one is snowmobiles. Over the years, done a ton of work on snowmobiles. Our first shop we had rented, the parking lot was a good gathering spot for people to start snowmobiling, which means there was always a bunch of broken snowmobiles right by the shop. So we ended up fixing a lot of stuff on those, which kind of turned me off on snowmobiles. They are broken more than they are working. Although over the years we did work on some cool ones, built a few turbo setups, fabbed up some stuff for some 500 horsepower plus ones, which if you ask me is freaking insane. There's no seatbelt, you're just holding on with your hands, and you got 500 some horsepower on like a 500 pound sled. I don't even know how much they weigh, but it can't be much. There's definitely crazier people out there than me. And I love helping facilitate.
There we go. So we clamped a plate onto the bottom there just to kind of hold it roughly into shape. We're gonna run a couple tacks on it and then we'll adjust where it needs to be. That was smooth. We hit a pocket of something there. Got a little bit. It was going fairly decent until that point too, but that is the beauty of welding. Cast whatever. We don't know exactly what's in there, and cast anything usually sucks because it's porous, there's dirt inside, and stuff just boom, like that. But outside of that, it's actually running pretty decent. So now that we got it all welded and ground down, we're just kind of blending it, make it look like it was never broken. A little bit of sanding goes a long way. And there we are, finished up. That is the extent of my bodywork on it, but I think it turned out pretty decent. But they'll skim it and paint the whole thing, but that'll look good on the boat and serve the purpose, and they'll be back to the original performance on it. Hopefully whoever had this doesn't hit stuff again. Or I guess hopefully they do and I can fix it again. So the next project today is this is Tommy from TFL's Discovery, the one that we did all the head gaskets on. All of them. All 2 head gaskets, I guess you would say. They are probably coming next week to either trailer this or drive it back. And if they drive it back, I just want to throw a fresh set of brake pads in it. They're just getting down there to where you make a 1,500 mile trip, it might become an issue. So we'll just take care of it here. That way, that's a non-issue. Everything else is looking pretty good on it. We had some power steering leaks to take care of after we drove it. But it is running and driving very well. So the rotors are in reasonable shape yet, so we will just go ahead and do the pads just to make sure they don't have any issues getting home. And if you've never done a set of pads on, say, like a Discovery 1, Classic Defender, Range Rover Classic, anything of the sorts, they are pretty easy. There, they're already out. I love doing fixed caliper brake pads. Just a couple cotter keys and they slide out. They just slide right back in. And we just have our new hardware. These just push down on top of the pads and the cotter keys lock them in. Then we just bend the cotter keys. That's a little easier job with 2 hands, so we might have to set you down. And we just pop the wheel back on. So when it's that easy to do, it'd just be awful silly for us not to do that for them before they head back across the country. There it is. Lost the impact. Chet's sure enjoying the 70-degree weather.
Much nicer than a couple weeks ago. You ready for summer?
So that should be it for the TFL Disco, at least here at the Lost Cause Ranch. We'll just go spin this around, bench pads in, make sure everything is good to go. Give it a click once over. Then we'll just spray the guy off, give it a good detail, maybe a little paint correction, and give it a coat of wax or something just to protect it on the trip home. When they're sitting inside a shop for a couple months, they get pretty dusty, and it's such a nice looking Discovery that will make it look as good as it can. Range Rover is just so freaking useful. You can fit part of a boat in. Finally found something less reliable than a Land Rover to put inside the Land Rover. But we're gonna go take this down. They have another one waiting, so we'll swap them out and do another one some other day. And now that we're done with most of the stuff for today, we come to the fun part of owning a shop, a business, anything like that, and that is bills. We got some utility stuff to pay because it is the end of the month, and on top of that we have property taxes to pay. We pay those twice a year in Iowa, and today happens to be that day. The city bill I have to write out a check for. Everything else we should be able to do online, but either way, anything that we possibly made today is disappearing right now. We have a couple packages to drop off at the post office, so we'll drop that off at City Hall on the way to save 78 cents worth of a stamp. And now we'll just go online here, and speaking of taxes, it's almost time for that too. Man, being an adult sucks. Those are due on the 15th. We got a couple weeks left for that, so you know me, I'll procrastinate. Although we have something coming up in the middle of April, so maybe I should pay property tax. The website's going awful slow, and that's probably because I'm not the only one paying them on the last day. All our money is gone. It's unfortunate because taxes take away Land Rover money. Starting to get a little dark out, but every day I try and do a task that keeps my hoarding in check. Sometimes it's small, sometimes it's a little bigger. This one we'll call a medium task, and that is we're gonna try and sort out the stuff that is in the machine shop side. So while we were tearing apart the LR4 and the P38, I just kind of dumped some of the bigger stuff over here because, well, there was space. So I kind of want that space back because we are going to get that mill fired up. We just received the one part I was missing for it. Well, not missing, but this, what appears to be like a solenoid of some sorts, was leaking air. This has compressed air that goes through it, electrics that hook up to it, so it's going to be a valve in there of some sorts that controls something. Seems kind of important, but we have one here now, and then we should be able to use the mill. We just need to kind of clear out the machine shop side a little bit at least. And this really isn't solving a problem, it's just moving a problem, but hey, what do we do? Get our LR4 transmission moved as well. Whoa. And the P38 transfer case. So we're pretty much just pushing stuff from one location to another, but something that is leaving is our pile of cats underneath the parts washer here, which brings me to kind of a funny story. Scrap cats hold a significant part in my life. No, I've never stolen any. These are always off cars of my own. But the origin story of my first business starts with a pile of scrap cats. So like I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I've been selling parts and whatnot pretty much my entire adult life, and even previous to turning 18. But my first foray into being full-time self-employed, which happened a long time ago, when I was 20, was jump-started with a bunch of scrap cats. So I worked at a dealership at the time, and for some reason there was a bunch of warranty cats from that manufacturer, and they didn't want them back. Why they didn't want them back, that was weird. They would ask for a power steering pump that failed back, but they didn't ask for something that had scrap value back. The dealership was normally just selling them to a local scrap buyer along with all the rest of our scrap metal. Well, I offered to buy the load of them, and it was a load. It was like a truck bed load at the time. And I did a little research, and instead of selling those to a local scrapper, I found out who our local scrapper sells them to. Then I found out who that guy sells them to that actually refined them. And being I had a truck bed load, they would buy that off of me. And this was before the epidemic of crackheads cutting catalytic converters off cars. So it was a lot more legit. Had a lot of paperwork tracing everything because they came off legit vehicles. So I just pulled a little, I guess, arbitrage on that and paid the dealership, went and drove 4 hours away and dropped off a load of cats and made 4 times my money. And that gave me the jump to go rent my own shop. The first shop I ever rented was paid for with scrap cats. So I had 2 months, 3 months worth of expenses covered, and it's just been kind of gangbusters ever since off of these. So kind of enjoy this. A few of you have been asking lately for like the origin story to how I ended up here. And I don't know, let me know if that's something you want to hear about. Maybe we'll do a full-length feature. I'll go through, dig out some old hard drives and get some pictures and videos from way back in the day and kind of go through how I started and how we ended up
in this disaster. But this disaster is now our little engine row at the back of the shop. This is where the lightweight used to sit.
So the car wash is 1,800 square feet. Then we have 320 square feet in the storage container. There's a few engines and transmissions in there. Most of that is used parts otherwise that are listed for sale or going to be listed for sale. I really need to figure out what to do here because this is becoming an issue. Some pallet racking would go a long way, but we really don't have room for pallet racking. I really need like 4,000 square feet of shop. It's just that in our area, 4,000 square feet would be like 4 or 5 times the cost of what I paid for the car wash. And I just don't know if I want to do that because I'm having a lot of fun and we get to do random stuff like cut an LR4 in half because I don't have a big overhead anymore. I've been there, had the big nice building in the best location, had employees. I just don't know if I want to do that again. I'm having a load of fun. So maybe we just need to not hoard so much, but then if you don't hoard anything, it's not as fun.
I'm just an odd duck and I love walking in and seeing a Maserati engine, 5-liter LR4 engine, R385 speed. We got a 4.6 gems, even though that was kind of watery inside. The Borg Hoarder transfer case for the P38 I really don't have any use for. I'll never have anything that has the pumpkins offset to the wrong side. LR4 transmission, good to have around, you know, in case we get too rowdy with a truck.
But either way, we just took the Range Rover down, dropped off that other lower unit, picked up another one.
But this one looks like a freaking angry beaver got a hold of it. Holy cow. That's gonna be interesting. I don't even know how that happens. We hit something pretty good all the way. So this one will be a little more challenging than the last one.
But that seems like a good project for the morning, so we'll leave you guys off on this video of a day in the life of how I sustain my mess. In the automotive end of things, I kind of thrive on a little bit of chaos. But we'll knock that out in the morning.
And then I think we'll start measuring up for our roll bar inside and maybe start on that guy. And we'll probably see you Sunday with more truck stuff.
Unless we make a trip out of town. I have a trip out of town to make. And if we do that, you'll see that instead. That's probably an interesting break from the truck. But either way, appreciate you guys watching, appreciate you subscribing,
and we will catch you on the next one. Hopefully we don't catch you as hard as this caught something.
And what goes in this week? Someone will just have to find out. Update on the press brake. Before I could even shoot an email off to Langmuir about it, they emailed me. They saw the last video. So, I'll keep you updated on what happens.